everybody, today we're going to be talking about the brain. The brain is divided into a cerebrum, a cerebellum, a brainstem, and this brainstem would continue in as your spinal cord, which would be running down your vertebral column. Let's first talk about the cerebrum. The cerebrum is divided into 4 lobes. The lobe on the front is your frontal lobes. This lobe on top is your parietal lobe. This lobe in the back here is your occipital lobe. We have one more, it kind of looks like a thumb right here. This is your temporal lobe. Let's review that again. You have your frontal lobe, you have your parietal lobe, you have your occipital lobe, and you have your temporal lobe. This would also be seen on the other side as well. Frontal, parietal, occipital, and temporal. We also see we have the cerebellum and we have your brainstem. Let's take a look at a mid-sagittal cut of the brain. Looking here, we see we have this kind of looks like an upside down Nike sign. This is your corpus callosum. This has fibers that connects the right side of your brain to the left side of the brain. This area right here would be your lateral ventricle. This is where you would find CSF production. CSF stands for cerebrospinal fluid. It is a fluid that surrounds your brain and your spinal cord, providing nourishment and protection. This next area right here, this includes your thalamus. Your thalamus is a sensory relay station. When you have sensory information coming up from below, the thalamus will edit and sort it out and send it off to where it needs to go into the cerebrum. Just anterior to the thalamus, we have this little jelly bean-like shaped structure. This is known as your pituitary gland. Your pituitary gland is a major controller of some of your endocrine organs, so a majority of the hormones in your body. Posterior to the thalamus is going to be this structure right here, the number 23. That structure right there is known as the pineal gland or the pineal body. This structure secretes a hormone known as melatonin. That regulates your sleep-wake cycles. Next, we have our brainstem. And our brainstem sits in front of our cerebellum, which we saw from the outside as well. The brainstem is divided into 3 parts. We have our midbrain. This round area is the pons. This lower area is the medulla oblongata. And then as it narrows down, it will continue as the spinal cord and run down the spine. Now we have 2 cranial nerves that exist on this brain model. And looking from this underside view or inferior view of the brain here, you can see what looks like 2 little alien antennas running underneath the frontal lobe. This is your olfactory tract, and at the end it becomes round. This is your olfactory bulb. This is involved with smell. Then you can see we have an X-like structure right here. This is your optic chiasma or optic chiasm. This is connected to your optic nerves, which is cranial nerve number 2. This is attached to the back of your eyeball, so information coming from your retina, your rods and cones would come through here. Some of it would cross, and it would go to the occipital lobe of the brain. You can also see here we have our midbrain, we have our pons, and we have our medulla, and this bottom portion right here would be the spinal cord.